Updates for you today, and then I'll turn you loose. Last night we had a city council meeting. We extended an ordinance that we've really had in effect for almost a month now, what we're referring to as the snow lingering ordinance, limiting patrons and keeping our parks closed, things like that. So what everybody's been used to for the last several weeks, that will just continue on, and that was extended through May 15. May 15 again is when we're projecting our peak in our MSA here, so that is the reason for that being extended to that date. We also have just a couple. I'm going to try and get in the habit of sharing the updated data points with you when they're applicable. A couple things we just continue to watch is how we're doing with our cases per capita and where we rank in our cases per capita in Sioux Falls. Haven't really moved much on that in the last several days. We're still at about 588 cases per capita right now in Sioux Falls. So that's a number that we watch and update on a regular basis. More importantly, though, than that is this number that we're watching, which is the hospitalization rate and active cases that we're having. As you can see from the data here, hospitalization rate upticked a little bit to about 6%. So about 6% of all these cases actually are requiring hospitalization right now. That's the important number because that tells us what the healthcare capacity is to handle patients who do require hospitalization. So as you can see, and this is some of that data that when we talked about a stay-at-home ordinance, for instance, we're watching this, and based on the projections that we saw, we started to see a flattening. So we've had a nice flattening here of active cases. We've been recovering and adding cases at about the same rate, as you can see. So that's good. And so this is where Sioux Falls sits today. Well, the state will be releasing new numbers at noon, which will drive this as well. But so far, good news continues to be on this number right here in that hospitalization rate area. Yesterday, we launched a program called SOAR. Supporting operations, supporting operations and resiliency. Okay, now what do you mean by resiliency? When you're talking about resiliency, when businesses are forcing to contract and limit hours and so forth, the point of this program is to help businesses right now adapt their business practices to this new normal that we're going to be in for a little bit. And so we have technical assistance from our health department and our planning department. We have a hotline that employers can call and employees can call. We're not trying to turn into a whistleblower hotline, but there's times employees have concerns and they just want to share those with someone. And then we can go to that business and maybe share some best practices that they can consider. We'll provide media support. We're going to be providing regular WebEx and Zoom calls with businesses at recurring times. They can hop on at any time, and we'll cover different topics, including communicating with your employees, which is a very important one that I think a lot of businesses are continuing to try to figure out how they can best communicate with their employees during this time. So that's a tool for us to program for us to ensure that businesses are taking the responsibility of COVID response the right way. And the reason it's called that we put resiliency on the end of that program, that's an important word, because the more seriously businesses take this now, the more loyal their employees are going to be, the more loyal their customers are going to be, and the quicker they're going to bounce back when we get past this. So employee retention and customer retention is very important at this time. A lot of businesses have customers who appreciate the steps businesses are taking to mitigate the spread. That builds a customer loyalty amongst your customer base, believe it or not. So doing the right thing also has economic ramifications as well, and that's why we're working with businesses on that. Last thing, we launched earlier this week a challenge to get people outside in a safe way to get some exercise, help with their mental health, physical health, get their mind off TV, social media, COVID, which we're calling 100 miles in 100 days, has taken off. There's literally been thousands of miles that have been tracked since Sunday on this. Would continue to encourage people to get outside and get exercise in a safe and responsible manner right now because we need it. The weather's turning great for that, And so continue to do that and support that, that effort too. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions that you guys might have.
You know, at one point there was a talk of an isolation center. Where are we on that? So if you get COVID, you test positive, how do you get away from your spouse or your family and isolate?
It's a good question. I'm actually going to let Jill speak to the isolation center. I'm going to invite Jill up. We're meeting on that again this morning. We have a couple dozen people in our homeless population that we are isolating in different hotels across the city. But as the cases spread, we're seeing an increased need for more isolation. So, Jill, you want to speak to what we're doing on that front?
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. Jill Franken with the Health Department, the EOC. Being able to provide successful isolation and quarantine for those that are not able to do that successfully at home is really going to be a very multi-layered approach, because we know that there's going to be a variety of different needs for that and solutions to be able to do that effectively. So certainly we'll be taking an approach to being able to place people in hotel rooms as needed, but then we're also looking at what are some other, rather than it being a center, if you will, where are ways that we can provide the best access to what does that place need to be for some, maybe it's an entire family, for example, maybe it is a single individual, and maybe it's someone who needs a little bit more assistance, maybe just with day-to-day living activities, and someone who can be pretty isolated and by themselves and manage very well. So we are still working out the details of all of that, but we hope by the end of the week we'll have a really good complete plan on that. But we are managing to place people who need to be isolated or quarantined effectively and can't do so in a home setting or a dwelling. We're able to get that accomplished right now.
Does that include like rehab facilities that are within the city limits?
Well, rehab facilities are special. That's their purpose, right? And they're actually considered a type of inpatient if they're in a rehab facility. So I wouldn't say the question being, what about rehab facilities, and is that a part of an isolation center approach? And I would say probably not. Would you consider a rehab facility to be an isolation center? No.
How many hotels, I mean, are they receptive to this? Because you are, taking a positive person and putting it in their facilities.
Sure, we work very, transparently with those hotels and let them know for what purpose would we be needing that. There's contracts that are being, negotiated for the number of rooms that we need, et cetera. So, yeah, they're very aware.
I will just add a couple things to that. As the cases grow, and the number we've always used is for every one case, you have about 10 contacts that need to be, in some form of isolation. Again, the lion's share of those are isolating at home, in a place where they can in their home. But as the cases grow, we're going to see more people who that's maybe not an option based on, the density of people living in their home or whatever the case may be. And regarding, bringing people who are COVID positive to a hotel, that is certainly a challenge, and that will be a challenge as we continue to see more cases as well, because some of those people, quite honestly, they don't want to be in the hotel. They don't want to stay there. And so we have security issues and concerns as well with saying, hey, you need to stay in this hotel room for 14 days. And they say, yeah, the heck if I do. And that's difficult. It's making for some difficult situations. And like I said, we're having conversations on what the next step is going to be with that as those case numbers grow. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.